Hello, it's Kat, and welcome to the live today. If it's your first time to the live, this is a public live, and you can be seen um, if you want to comment. And I just want you to be aware of that, so you keep yourself safe. I think just watching the live is fine. If you want to comment in the back or send a message out, feel free. I just want the community that we serve here, uh, the War at Home, If Only Someone Knew, and Guardians War Cry, is about domestic violence, but it's also my drive right now is to have people get an understanding of what coercive control is, and then an understanding that coercive control is the underpinning of all abuse. And if that is true, then that's what our focus should be on, because uh, coercive control is this psychological torture that happens in our world that uses these tactics that Biderman talked about in 1957 in his research. His name is Albert Biderman, by the way. And he talked a lot about perception, uh, not perception, but coercive control. So, to be clear, today I thought we would start with Walt Whitman's quote of re-examine everything you've been told, dismiss anything that insults your soul. And I think that's important to understand, because I think in developing the understanding of self and cultivating who we are and what we are and how we think is one of the problems that gets us into problems with abusive type people, is that they use these tactics along with the narcissistic traits, which I try to share on the page. Today's highlight is this monopolization of perception, because what they do is they take a situation, and I'm going to use the situation of what I think won't be too hard, like triggering to people, but give you the information. And the information is, I had a family member that was coercively controlling their family and coercively controlling um, another part of the family, and then coercively controlling, trying to coercively control me and what was being talked about. And so they wanted the abuser wanted um, the perception for his family to see that they were, uh, that he was taking care of them by reaching out to this other family member and inviting them somewhere. What they weren't aware of is that they weren't, the abuser wasn't calling the family back when they made calls back to get to the sign, to get the event all planned. So then the one that had been called and wished a happy anniversary to somebody in their family, in the abuser's family, and that set up the person in the abuser's family to say, "Well, we've been trying to get a hold of you. I know that my dad had called and left you a message, and you never returned the message." And so it ended up coming back onto me with, um, because the person that was being coerced was older, and they didn't want to get involved in this drama. It didn't make sense to them. And so I got handed the phone, and I said, well, she had tried to call, and she hadn't got a phone call back. And then it went back and forth to yes, they did, no, they didn't. And there was no call on the phone that was missed. Well, the abuser got on the phone and they said, well, is that number coming from the end of the elder person's number? And I said, yes. And the abuser said, I don't have that number. So the abuser's family all heard that he didn't have that number. So he was monopolizing their perception as to he just didn't have the number. And so therefore he never got that call because he said, I don't have that number and I never got a call from that number. Now, if they might have been quick on their feet, they may have heard that he repeated it. But he wanted them to believe that either I or this older person, and I really was the target, wasn't making the connection for the older person. And so it is in that monopolization of perception because you only know what you see. And I had known enough about this kind of situation to understand the tactics that he was using to spin that in a way that looked like he was now that victim. That was that Darvo in action. That was deny, attack, reverse, and be the victim and the offender. And you see, even in that story, he was like, well, I never got that. And let's you and I work it out because he wanted to have it out with me. So it is in this monopolization of perception, which is what I'm talking about. When you start to see the tactics that Biderman is talking about, those 8 tactics of that are on the chart of coercion: isolation, monopolization of perception, humiliation and degradation, exhausting, threats, occasional indulgences, demonstrating omnipotence, and trivial demands, making trivial demands. When you see that story or listen to that story, you can see how these tactics are being used. It's not just the monopolization of perception that's being used, although that's what I'm trying to highlight today. He's also isolating his family from understanding and knowing the truth. He's wanting them to see it from his perception. He's exhausting them and this side by making stuff up that they're trying to figure out and we're trying to figure out. And he's acting as if he's a god that is making these decisions and pushing these people around. This is why I want you to have that understanding, because when we look at what these tactics do, and especially the monopolization of perception, they can lead to things that lead us into that disorientating kind of feeling that I was talking about in that story, that confusion of what's really going on. And the abuser wants to constantly manipulate reality and wants to chip away at victims' ability to speak for self and have that understanding of what the perception is. You see, even when the elder person was talking to the person that they were wishing a happy anniversary to, the abuser took over that conversation. So they no longer got to have that conversation. You see, there's also learned helplessness, because the abuser wants the people that they're trying to control to be passive, to give up. That's that part of that exhaustion that you feel when these kinds of things happen on a day-to-day basis. That confusion, that disorientation, like something doesn't seem right. What is this? And it's because they're messing with your perception. They're messing with this idea that you can think for yourself, which is why I really push this idea of thinking for self, to have an understanding of what this is and to have an understanding of you and how you are. It's like I've talked in the past about I'm not I don't like people who yell. And so if the voice is too high or the tone is too high, I'm just going to say no, I'm done, and I'll be done with the conversation. Where before I may have tried to listen to help to understand and all of that, and then you get confused, and then you get into this whole like passive, like I don't really care because it doesn't matter to me, and you give up, and then you give up, and what you don't realize is that this slowly erodes you into your own thought process around these people, which is what they want. And there's this shifting of blame that happens where the victim internalizes what the abuser is saying as the correct narrative, or the victim is believing that they're the problem, that maybe they didn't say what they thought they said, or maybe somebody didn't hear it right, because that's what happens in normal relationships. Sometimes things don't come through the same way, and you have to kind of work it out and figure it out. But the abusers are purposefully trying to disorientate you. They are purposefully trying to confuse you, because if they can get you to be who they want you to be, it's the same as in those narcissistic traits of this fantasy that they have, that we have the ideal relationship, and so they put things together so that it seems ideal. Like maybe they'll take you to a baseball game and they'll sing um, take me out to the ball game to you, and 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 you feel like you're having fun, but it's really about them pulling you in close and having that perception for public to see that we have this closeness. And then in the background, they're victimizing you. They're taking away your independence. They're taking away your sense of self. They may see you as a tool, like what can I do to get where I want to be with you? What do I need to take to control this situation? And so I hope this conversation kind of helps you see that this monopolization of your perception that Biderman talks about is trying to get you off center, trying to get you to believe the way they believe, because they have a sense of what they want in their life, and they want you to fulfill that. There is no thought process if that's something you want to do, because they don't want you to think for yourself unless it serves them. So I'll end this thought on monopolizing your perception with this idea of from a man named Ansel Adams, who was a good photographer. No man has the right to dictate to other men. No, I'm going to start that over again. No man has the right to dictate what other men should perceive. Correct or not correct? Boy, I'm really messing this up. No man has the right to dictate what other men should perceive, create, or produce, but all should be encouraged to reveal themselves, their perceptions and emotions, and build confidence in the creative spirit that we are. You see, I try, like on here, I just messed up that quote like 3 times, but I try to, uh, I'm okay with being imperfect is what I'm trying to say. I still got the message across. So I'm not letting other people dictate how I should be, how I should look, how I should be perceived. I'm perfectly okay just as I am. I'm purely okay. I don't have to earn it or prove it to no one. But I want you to see this tactic of monopolization of your perception and how it's working in real time in your life if you have somebody that is abusive in your realm. And so I hope that helps you, and take care. Bye bye.